Right, let's start with this report in the Times. What does it say?
Well, it says that the FA have sounded out Pep Guardiola about Guardiola becoming the next England manager, and also that he's likely to make up his mind about what he wants to do next in the next few weeks. Now, the FA's position is very clear. They are not commenting on this report at all, and they're not commenting on the process to appoint a full-time England manager to take over after Gareth Southgate stepped down after the Euros. But what I can tell you, and it's not going to come as a surprise to you, is that Pep Guardiola would be the dream candidate. He would be the ideal candidate to become the England manager. The only problem, of course, is that he's the Manchester City manager. And we have to respect Manchester City. Yes, everyone's talking about the fact that his contract is going to run out at City at the end of the season, but we don't know whether he's going to sign a contract or not. At the moment, he's a City manager. I think we owe City the respect of not speculating about where Pep Guardiola is going to go next. But we can judge what the man himself said on Italian TV over the weekend, as we saw in that clip. He said, "I don't know what I'm going to do next." But mark my words, if he wants to become the England manager, the job would be his.
Could they afford Pep Guardiola? Let's talk about that. All right. So whether it's Pep or not, let's look at this England manager's role. Is it going to attract the best people, given how the job is at the moment?
I'm not sure. I think what's happened is that club football has overtaken international football. Club football, if you are one of the elite managers in the world, is the place to be. Yes, international football is very glamorous and everybody watches it when there's a major tournament on. But for the rest of the time, I don't think it really appeals to the top managers. That is why I think maybe in the future we should move towards a model where countries like England, for instance, have two managers. So you have a manager, I can see you're surprised.
Two managers?
Yeah, you have a manager like Pep Guardiola who is given a contract every other summer for the tournament. So you would say to Pep, you manage England for the World Cup in USA 2026 and you manage England for the Euros in 2028. For the other games, the qualifiers and the Nations League, Lee Carsley could be in charge. That is one way I think the international game could develop, because somebody like Pep Guardiola, somebody who's at the peak of his powers, arguably the greatest manager of all time, are you really saying to me that he's going to be that tempted by the prospect of taking charge for pretty meaningless Nation League games and also Euro and World Cup qualifiers, which, with all due respect, England normally just coast through?
Hold on. What about continuity? What about if Pep says, Gareth Southgate's a great example, didn't play Jack Grealish. Lee Carsley comes in, plays Jack Grealish. How can you have a situation where one manager fancies one player and the other one, for the tournaments, doesn't?
What I'm saying to you is that being the England manager is all about winning major tournaments. It's not about getting to major tournaments. You don't need Pep Guardiola to get you to the World Cup finals. The next World Cup finals, they're in the USA, expanded to 48 teams. It's almost going to be impossible for England not to qualify. They have not lost a World Cup qualifier for 15 years. The last time they lost a World Cup qualifier was 2009 in Ukraine, 1-0, and they still qualified for the World Cup in South Africa in 2010. Look at their World Cup qualifying record. This century, they've only lost 3 World Cup qualifiers. The first one, 24 years ago, against Germany at Wembley, they still qualified for the next World Cup. They lost another qualifier, I think, back in 2005 against Northern Ireland in Belfast. They still qualified for the World Cup in 2006. And then that game in Ukraine 15 years ago. So all I'm saying to you is, I don't think you need Pep Guardiola to qualify for World Cups. What you need is Pep Guardiola when you are in the World Cup finals, because I think he can be the difference between you getting to the final, losing to Spain, losing on penalties to Italy, and actually winning a major trophy for the first time in 1966. And it's a similar story for the Euros. You don't need Pep Guardiola to get you to the Euros because the next Euros in 2028, they're in the UK. So England are almost certainly going to qualify automatically as hosts. So what I'm saying to you is, let Pep Guardiola have the best of both worlds. Say to him, Pep, you carry on managing Manchester City, but just for 5-6 weeks in the summer of 2026 and 2028, make yourself available to manage England. Just an idea that I'm putting out there.
There is method in your madness, but I'm going to take you back to the...
I'm just thinking outside the box.
All right, yeah, which I like, but I'm going to take you back to the beginning. We're saying FA can't afford Pep Guardiola. How can they afford Pep Guardiola and another manager?
Well, I think they could afford Lee Carsley. I'm not sure how much he earns, but it is a very modest sum compared to what managers in the Premier League earn. And I think with Pep Guardiola, he could carry on being a club manager, but he would have to be available to work every other summer for England. And of course, he would be paid a big sum for that. And also there would be a massive bonus if England were to win the World Cup or the Euros. I know it sounds a bit out there, it sounds controversial, but just put yourself in the position of an England player at a major tournament. Who do you want on the touchline? You want the greatest manager of all time, with all due respect to Sir Alex Ferguson. You want Pep Guardiola. You want to stop this, whatever it is, 60, 70 years of hurt. You want to win a major trophy. And I think the way to do it is to have Pep and Lee, or Pep and somebody else. But forget about this two managers, because if we believe what the Times are reporting, and there's no reason why we shouldn't, because their stories are always impeccably sourced, I think the FA are sounding out Pep Guardiola. They're not interested in my plan because they want to stick to plan A, which is to get the best person for the job. And I'm sure everybody in the football world would agree that the best person for the job is Pep Guardiola. And if you can get him, go out and get him.